How U.S. entry into Iran-Israel conflict could cripple Tehran's underground nuclear facilities. As the Israel-Iran conflict intensifies, the possibility of direct U.S. military involvement has become a focal point of global concern. Beyond the broader geopolitical consequences, one specific outcome could be particularly consequential: a assault airstrike campaign that targets and potentially cripples Iran's underground nuclear facilities, particularly the heavily fortified Fordow fuel enrichment plant. While Israel has repeatedly targeted Iranian nuclear infrastructure over the years, it lacks the deep penetration capabilities required to neutralize sites buried deep within mountains. The United States, however, possesses one unique asset that could change the game: the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP. In the event of American intervention, this weapon could pose the first real threat to Iran's most secure nuclear sites. Iran's nuclear program is deliberately designed with survivability in mind. After facing years of sabotage, cyber attacks like the Stuxnet virus, and airstrikes on above-ground facilities, Tehran moved critical operations underground. The most prominent example is the Fordow fuel enrichment plant, located near the holy city of Qom. This facility is buried beneath approximately 80 meters of rock and reinforced concrete, effectively shielding it from conventional airstrikes. The Natanz facility, another major enrichment site, also contains underground halls but is less deeply buried than Fordow. While Israel has targeted surface and shallow subsurface sections of Natanz in past operations, Fordow has remained off-limits, not because of political restraint but because of physics. Natanz, despite possessing state-of-the-art aircraft like the F-35I ADIR stealth fighter, Israel's Air Force lacks the ability to destroy Fordow's buried centrifuge halls. The best penetrator munitions in Israel's arsenal, such as the GBU-28 and BLU-109 bombs, can only reach depths of 20-30 meters, far short of the threshold needed to destroy Fordow's reinforced mountain shield. In fact, Israeli officials have previously asked Washington for access to the GBU-57, acknowledging that only the United States has the hardware needed for such a mission. Without external support, Israel's efforts are limited to disrupting Iran's above-ground nuclear infrastructure or relying on cyber warfare and covert sabotage. These tactics can slow Iran down, but cannot eliminate Fordow. Natanz, the GBU-57AB Massive Ordnance Penetrator MOP is the most powerful non-nuclear conventional bomb in the U.S. arsenal. Specifically developed for destroying deeply buried targets, it weighs nearly 30,000 pounds (13.6 metric tons) and is capable of penetrating up to 60 meters of reinforced concrete before detonation. It is GPS guided, fitted with a smart fuse for delayed detonation, and built with a hardened steel casing that allows it to maintain structural integrity during penetration. However, only one aircraft can deliver it: the U.S. Air Force's B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. This long-range bomber is capable of penetrating advanced air defense networks and reaching targets with minimal detection. But while the MOP is the most powerful option, it is not the only one available to the United States. Natanz, alongside the MOP, the U.S. military can deploy a range of advanced precision-guided weapons that, together, increase the likelihood of significantly damaging Iran's nuclear infrastructure. These munitions can be used to weaken surface defenses, destroy support facilities, or soften specific targets before the MOP is deployed. Among these are JDAM's Joint Direct Attack Munitions and JSOW's Joint Standoff Weapons, each weighing around 2,000 pounds, that can be dropped in a sequence to gradually breach reinforced structures. Military planners have described a chisel-through technique. One bomb creates an initial cavity, followed by another dropped into the same point to penetrate further. This layered bombing strategy can complement the MOP by preparing the ground and increasing its effectiveness. The U.S. also possesses JASSM's Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missiles, which allow long-range, stealth attacks on surface-level or lightly hardened targets such as tunnel entrances, centrifuge control buildings, or air defense nodes, reducing risk to piloted aircraft. Even smaller munitions like BLU-109 and BLU-116 bunker busters, though incapable of reaching Fordow's depth, are still valuable. They can destroy key surface infrastructure that supports underground operations such as power stations, air vents, access tunnels, and communication lines, disrupting Iran's ability to operate or protect the site even if the core remains intact. Natanz As of MID 2025, the GBU-57 has never been deployed in a live combat situation. While multiple rounds of testing have validated its performance in controlled environments, there remains uncertainty about how effective it would be against a real-world target like Fordow, which may have added fortifications or decoy infrastructure. According to defense analysts cited in the Washington Post and Financial Times, the bomb's performance is reliable on paper, but actual combat effectiveness remains unproven. A successful strike on Fordow would require the U.S. Air Force operates only about 20 B-2 bombers, making each such mission extremely high value and logistically complex. A direct strike on the Fordow facility using the massive ordnance penetrator MOP could inflict severe damage on Iran's underground nuclear infrastructure. If successful, such a strike could collapse centrifuge halls and crater access tunnels, rendering the site inoperable for years. It may also destroy stockpiles of enriched uranium, if they are stored at the targeted location, resulting in a substantial loss of Iran's nuclear material. Beyond the physical impact, the psychological effect would be significant. A successful U.S. strike would shatter Tehran's long-standing belief that its underground nuclear sites are immune to conventional attacks, thereby eroding the deterrence value Iran derives from their perceived invulnerability. Strategically, it could deal a major setback to Iran's ability to reach breakout capacity, that is, the point at which it could rapidly develop weapons-grade uranium. However, defense analysts caution that a single MOP may not be sufficient to eliminate the Fordow site entirely. Matthew Saville, head of military sciences at the Royal United Services Institute, told the Financial Times that destroying such a structure would require successive hits with bunker-buster bombs because a single strike is unlikely to penetrate all the reinforced layers. Any direct U.S. involvement in striking Iran's nuclear infrastructure, especially a site as symbolically and strategically significant as Fordow, would almost certainly escalate the ongoing conflict. One of the most immediate risks is retaliation against American forces stationed across the region, including military personnel and assets in Iraq, Syria, Bahrain, and throughout the Persian Gulf. Iran could also launch missile or drone strikes on critical Gulf oil infrastructure, which would severely disrupt global energy markets. Another serious consequence could be the temporary closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a vital maritime choke point through which around 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Additionally, Iran's cyber capabilities pose a growing threat, with state-backed actors potentially launching retaliatory cyber attacks against U.S. infrastructure and private sector networks. Beyond the military and economic repercussions, a strike on a nuclear facility carries far-reaching diplomatic consequences. It would all but eliminate the prospect of reviving negotiations over the Iran nuclear deal and could push Tehran to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT), further destabilizing the global non-proliferation framework. As per government sources, the U.S. has begun preparing emergency evacuation plans for its citizens in Israel, widely interpreted as a precautionary step ahead of possible military escalation. In parallel, U.S. forces have repositioned key assets closer to the region, including aerial refueling tankers, F-22 Raptors, and B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, signaling heightened operational readiness. In a public statement on June 17, President Donald Trump declared, "We want Iran to make an unconditional surrender," a remark that further underscored Washington's hardening stance on Tehran's nuclear program. According to senior military officials quoted in the Washington Post, Iran's Fordow enrichment facility is viewed as the most likely target if a strike is authorized. Adding to the signals of advanced military preparedness, the E-4B Nightwatch, often referred to as America's Doomsday Plan, was spotted landing at Joint Base Andrews near Washington, D.C. This aircraft is specially built to serve as a flying command center during a major war or nuclear conflict. Its deployment is rare and is being seen by defense experts as a signal that the U.S. is getting ready for all possible scenarios. President Trump's position remains firm yet strategically ambiguous. On Wednesday, he stated on U.S. military action, "I'm not looking for a fight with Iran, but we're ready to act if we have to. I may do it, I may not do it. Nobody knows what I'm going to do. Nothing is finished until it is finished. The next week is going to be very big, maybe less than a week." As per WSJ, Trump told aides he had approved military strike plans, including options against highly fortified targets such as Fordow, but stopped short of issuing a final order, choosing to await Iran's response to his maximum pressure tactics. In sum, while no attack has yet been launched, the groundwork including intelligence, weaponry, and personnel positioning is firmly in place, and final authority rests squarely with Trump. Swipe left for next video. And if the United States chooses to enter the Iran-Israel conflict militarily, it will mark a turning point, not just in this regional war, but in the global nuclear balance. The Fordow facility, long considered unreachable, could be the centerpiece of that shift. Latest blogs.